big news coming in. Violent escalation in Agnipath protests. Protesters fell stones at cops in Bihar. Cops injured after protesters fell stones. We see different districts of Bihar, large-scale agitation as the state is now boiling over many aspirants who were writing examinations to enter the army are very upset and angry over the new Agnipath scheme that's been rolled out by the government. In fact, the Indian Army had rolled out a new Agnipath scheme where they're going to be recruiting youngsters between the age of 17 to 21 on a 4-year contract basis. The ones on merit will be retained, the others could be let off with help for their next career option. Now, this has not gone down well with aspirants who've been preparing for the last 2 years to enter the army for a full-fledged career in the army. Here, protests have turned so violent that police officers who were trying to man the situation have been injured. Kaimur in Bihar, we see a police officer literally struggling to aid his injuries. In fact, right now, we see visuals of bogies and trains that were burnt. Many of those protesters who have torched vehicles, vandalized public property, they're angry, they're upset and insecure over this Agnipath scheme rolled out by the Indian Army. Protesters pelting stones at the cops in Bihar. Cops trying really hard to settle the situation to try and calm those protesters, but seem to have failed so long. Cops have been injured after protesters have pelted stones. In fact, this escalation now turns violent over Agnipath scheme that's been rolled out by the government. Protesters pelting stones at the cops in Bihar. Cops have been injured after protesters pelted stones. And these are the visuals coming in. Very sad to see the police who are trying so hard to calm those protesters are finally themselves bearing the brunt. They're the ones who are injured. Here you see a cop really trying hard. The paramilitary forces that have also been deployed there to man the situation. One of those officers who's trying to aid this law and order police after he's been hurt by Stone-pelting. Very, very violent protests. Train bogies were burnt. Stones were pelted, public property was damaged. The state of Bihar right now come to a standstill because of these large-scale protests. Gaurav Bhatia joining us on the phone line for more on that. BJP spokesperson. Gaurav, here is protests in Bihar where we see has taken a violent turn. Many of them condemning, in fact all of them were protesting, condemning the Agnipath scheme that's been rolled out. They seem to have been getting some kind of support from the opposition as well. Your take, would you want to calm them by saying a thing or two on the Agnipath scheme? Would you want to console them at all?
See, first of all, the Agnipath scheme is a historic decision by the government. It would be beneficial for the country. It would ensure a younger combat-ready force. It would also give opportunities of employment to the youth. However, this seems to be a protest that is fueled by irresponsible leaders like Rahul Gandhi, who has also tweeted on this scheme without even studying the nitty-gritties and the advantages of the Agnipath Yojana. And one thing for sure, that this is a government that is always open to suggestions, constructive suggestions. But political leaders who are trying to add fuel to fire will not be spared, and resorting to violence against uniformed personnel is also unacceptable.
Right. At this point, we believe that the protesters are very insecure about their job security. Many of them are aspirants who have been waiting for 2 years for recruitment. They've been preparing for the army examinations. Now they feel that this will scuttle their chances for a career within the army. They fear that there will be no more job security and pension for them, and the army will make do with a contract of 4 years and get them ready. Possibly many of them who are trying hard to get a long-term career will be sidelined.
See, whenever a new scheme is introduced, it could happen that certain youth of the country have doubts, insecurities, and that is why I said it is our responsibility to assuage the feelings of the youth. They are our youth. But other political parties in the opposition also first need to exhaustively examine the Agnipath scheme and then comment, rather than making tweets and comments which are insightful in nature, that are more of a propaganda than any other thing. And that is why we are open to suggestions, to dialogue, but using of force for protest is unacceptable, and political parties in the opposition also need to be more responsible.
Mr. Bhatia, here what the grouse is that they worry, well, there are large numbers of the youth in Bihar particularly wanting to apply for the army. They fear that only 25%, as per the new Agnipath scheme, only 25% will be brought down and will be retained as per merit. Many of the others who are aspiring for a long-term career may just be pushed out.
No, let us understand that first of all, you raised that there would be no pension, and after the tenure is over, there would be no security. There is a Seva Nidhi, around 11 lakh rupees that would be given. There would be skilled training of the person. There would be, a feeling of the security, discipline, patriotism in the youth that will serve the armed forces for 4 years. And most importantly, maximum number of recruitments have been done in the last 5 years, barring the COVID period, by this very government. And these numbers range from 50,000 to 75,000. So therefore, we should only be making allegations after we have studied the facts and the Agnipath scheme, which is in the interest of the nation and the youth.
Well, the protesters are, of course, accusing the government of doing this for the benefit.
No, that's fine. I've answered all your questions.
This is an attempt to try and cut costs, but at the cost of many of the youth who are possibly looking for a career.
Their future will be protected by the government. They are our youth. We understand our responsibility, and the youth of the country, I would say a very sizable population, is very enthusiastic and is encouraged by the announcement of this scheme.
Mr. Bhatia, any second thoughts over relooking the scheme at all?
I am not in a position to make any such comment. As I said, a majority of the youth have welcomed this historic scheme that is being launched, and people will benefit, youth will benefit, country will benefit, and of course, the armed forces will benefit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gaurav Bhatia there joining us with the BJP. Here, as much as the government says that this has been welcomed wholeheartedly, we're seeing a different scene altogether in Bihar. A huge protests that have broken out where angry youth have burned down train bogies, burned down buses, vehicles, literally disrupted law and order in the entire state and different districts.